And we are recording, I think. Yes.
Oh, yep. Recording right there. Hello.
Hello. Welcome back to
Good morning.
If you are listening, that means you made it all the way through episode 1 and you decided that you wanted more. So we are officially in business.
Welcome back.
We recorded... I'm eating a Snickers. We recorded... we listened to, debriefed. What am I... You say it. I can't say it.
Well, yeah. So our very first episode, just for a quick review, or if you're just joining us on episode 2, is
super weird.
Yes. We sat for about 2 hours and recorded a conversation in a coffee shop called Magic Cup, and intended it to be raw and live and exactly what it was, but then realized it's kind of difficult to hear. So we have decided to kind of tear apart that episode, so to speak. So in the real episode 1, we debriefed 7 minutes. Did we get
7 minutes and 20 seconds?
7 minutes and 20 seconds into a 2-hour conversation, and talked about that for an hour. So, so welcome to episode 2. I am Abby.
I'm Ryan.
And we're going to debrief maybe more than 7 minutes, maybe less.
Idea.
But that's the beauty of this.
I had like 14 epiphanies last time.
Yep.
There were some light bulbs. You could hear them. Mm-hmm. And so none of us know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But we're going to pick it up. I don't even remember what we were talking about in the thing.
I don't know. So let's just jump back in.
Okay. There was a version of me that was like an amazing public speaker. What would he do?
We both look at each other. Ah.
Oh, yes. That's who I was.
Right?
And then that's what I do every time.
It works. So before I go and teach in front of a large group or do anything big, I will go in the bathroom and do that, like, Superwoman pose. Yes. Mm-hmm. You know, where you get your hands on your hips and you're kind of just, your chest is puffed up. And that always seems to shift my energy.
That was... Oh, I need to set a timer.
That was what? Don't want to lose your train of thought.
Set another timer for 45 minutes, please.
Okay, 45 minutes and counting.
So, when I talk to Alexa, I always want to say thank you. But once you say the thing and she does the thing, the conversation's over. So to get her attention again, you have to say, Alexa. So I say, Alexa, do a thing. And she'll say, okay, I'm doing it. And I always go, Alexa, thank you.
Thank you.
I always say please.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't know why. I just feel like if robots are going to be things that we talk to and we don't have manners for them, that might bleed into us talking to other humans if they become human-like.
Very much
so. I'm trying to have like extra manners for robots, also for when they take over the world and become the Matrix. Maybe they will be nicer to me because I said please to Alexa.
Yes.
Okay, so what I was going to say here was that my spirit guide, because yes, we both also have spirit guides.
Yes.
Has been really, really enthusiastic lately about me moving my body.
Okay, let's come back to that really quick. Do you hear them?
Now?
No, for the general audience.
So spirit guides. Okay,
How do you know? So I want to hear about them being enthusiastic about moving your body. However,
but we need to talk about my relationship with my spirit guides. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I hear them in the same way that I hear my inner monologue.
Is the voice the same? Because for me,
no,
it's different.
It is a woman's voice.
Okay.
It is one person. It is a woman's voice. And real quick backstory: I was meditating because I'm a daily meditator, and it was 5 years ago or something like that, where I was sitting in my meditation space and I was feeling kind of like just worthless and useless and not really like I was a part of anything meaningful. And so I just asked. I wasn't at a point where I believed in anything remotely resembling any version of God.
Okay.
It was very much, I wasn't calling myself an atheist because I wasn't ready to close the book on it, but I just didn't have any reason to believe in the divine. Mm-hmm. But I was raised Christian, so the language of my interiors is to speak into something that's bigger than me. So I was just like addressing the universe, imagining in my head that I was talking to a universe that someone like Carl Sagan would have imagined we live in.
Okay.
And I just asked into the ether, why am I, like, what's my purpose? Do I have a purpose, or am I just... Because I'm also infertile, so there's no like evolutionary, you're going to pass down your genetic material That's not something that's going to happen. So am I just a dead end in the family tree of humanity, or do I have a reason to be here? Because if the answer is no, you don't have a reason, that's great. I can just do whatever the fuck I want. It's not going to matter because I don't have a reason for being. I'm just white noise.
Interesting.
You know, so I just I should stop trying to be something if I'm not supposed to be something. Was my attitude I brought into it. Like stop wanting to be significant.
Okay.
Was what I was looking for, and I was expecting to hear silence back.
Okay.
And then that was going to be my confirmation that I don't matter, and then I would stop trying to. That was what I expected to come out of that thing. And instead, this little voice just kind of, I don't know how to describe it. I've tried to put words around it, but the best way I can think of it is it floated my way like the scent of an incense. It just kind of like became something that I was aware of and in the presence of. And it had a color to it. It was like this indigo-ish, icebergy type of color. I'm also a synesthete, so sounds have colors to me. And it was a woman's voice, and she just said, "Put your hands like this." And I imagine like this mental image came into my head of my hands being held out in front of me, facing each other, about a foot apart. Okay. And all the voice said was, "Whatever's between those hands is the answer to your question." And then it just kind of like floated away, and I'm just like, "What the fuck was that?" And so then I do, and that's the first time I felt this tingling sensation on my palms, and I thought, okay, I am legit insane. Like I'm having hallucinations, and I'm having embodied experiences of things that aren't real, and I need to get checked out. But eventually, like we can go into that story later, but the whole that's what started me doing energy healing, and it happens through my hands, and now I can turn it on at will, and when my palms are tingly, if I hold them up to somebody else, they get tingly in the same place, even if I don't give them a reason to believe that it's going to happen. So, but it was that voice. Right. And so then later, I was like, I still feel like this is a voice in my head. I feel like I don't know what schizophrenia is like, but I feel like I'm seriously psychologically not okay if I'm hearing a voice in my head that's telling me to do things. That was really scary.
Especially a woman's voice, so you can't rule it out that it's
my
your own
own
in some way.
Right. And so then it was actually a conversation I had with you involving a purple cactus, where you gave me a tool that I could use to just kind of like weed out whether or not this is within me or external. Yes. If it's something that's not me that's influencing me, or if it's really is just generated from my head. Because even I'm also the type of person where I don't need to believe things. I don't need to believe something. I just want to know what is. Sure. And so if it is something that's completely a figment of my imagination, I want to know that. Not so that I can write it off. It's still useful. Like I meditate, and I think my subconscious talks to my conscious in a way that's really useful. But I just wanted to know, hey, this is my self-conscious, so I don't start talking like there's some spirit guide happening. I just can say I'm really in tune with my brain. But sure enough, I did the thing, and I had a couple of experiences that, at least for me, solidified that I am okay believing that this is something that is not me, that is communicating with me in a way that I can understand. Sure. Modern day 20th century English. And female. So then once I started calling it my guide, calling her my guide, she won't tell me her name.
They usually don't.
And she said it doesn't matter. Yep. And when I want to talk to her, she's there to talk. And she has told me things that have really, really, really transformed the way I do life and the way I think about things and the way I participate in this existence, that have only ever moved me towards health and wholeness. Yes. And then so I trust the voice. I trust her. Yesterday, she actually just kind of like knocked on the door. Normally I have to go to her, but sometimes she'll come to me. And I was like, yes. She said, "You're not getting any younger." And I said, I love how honest they are. "What do you mean by that?" And she goes, "Okay, bye." Just
for you to decipher here.
She's very snarky. She's very sarcastic. She's very kind of impatient if I spend too much time not moving forward.
It's interesting. Our guides have that in common.
Yes. And so anyway, I hear her in my head in the same way that I hear my inner monologue. Only it's a female voice, and she often says things that I never would have thought of and brings up perspectives that I don't have.
Right.
And so recently she's been really, really kind of driving it home that I need to start moving my body.
Okay.
And I'm not at all.
As
I
in
don't.
Exercise?
Exercise.
Okay.
And she doesn't even really seem to care what. She's like, you have a bike, you're not biking. You have a weight rack, you're not lifting. You work in a place that has a full fitness center that'll take $20 a month out of your paycheck pre-tax. You won't even feel it. You can use all of it, and you're not.
Interesting.
She's just like, you have no reason not to be knocking the wind out of yourself every now and then, and you should be, even if it's just yoga. She's like, just do something, make time and exercise in some way, go on a walk. And so,
do you know why?
No, I know enough about like the benefits of exercise to know that what would happen when I start doing that would definitely move me closer to where she's trying to get me to be.
Okay.
It also may just be that my health will decline in 30 years, and if I don't exercise, and if I do, then it'll start declining in 60 years. I don't know. No. You tell me why.
D. None of the above.
That's not what D is.
Oh.
D is all of the above.
Oh,
Universally,
sure.
D is all of the above.
Okay, then
E.
Okay. All right. E. None of the above. So, all right. So emotions, as you've heard me say, are physical.
Yes.
If we don't process them and we stifle them and we disassociate from them, which is sort of common trend because Rayron, Figment, go back to episode 1 to know who those are, do not want us to process those, want us to shut those down, or they want them to be very specific in the ones that we choose to engage in.
Yes.
When that happens, you get stuck. You are stuck. So you are going through some major transition in your life and you are not moving.
I'm very stuck.
Yes. I hope that's fair to say.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving your body, what that's going to do is it will physically make you process your emotions. So don't be surprised if you're out there on your bike and you start getting angry, you start crying, you start laughing, because you are not she's basically saying to you, you are not processing your emotions. And until you get out of your own way and you process them, because they are physical, it requires physical exercise to make that happen, then you are going to stay stuck and unable to move forward. So she's giving you an answer. Like you're saying, why? Why can't I go anywhere? Why can't I take a step? And we think it's fear. It's because it sounds like you are not processing your emotions.
You know what's funny is this should not be new to me in a lot of ways. But the way that I'm thinking about right now is that she that's how she does it. She gives me an answer to a question I didn't form words around.
Right.
And she doesn't give me context. And it never really seems to directly have anything to do with what I'm asking.
Sure.
She'll just say, hey, do this thing.
Right.
And
Spirit Guide Interpreter right here.
I'm so glad we're friends. Because she does, like, that makes total sense. That makes total sense that she would just say something that has nothing to do with anything. Just, hey, you should do this. You should do this. You should do this.
Right.
You should do this. You should do this. And I'm like,
Yes.
no, I am focusing on bigger things and all this other stuff.
And I don't have time to exercise.
Right. And she's like, no, but you should also do this. Like,
Yes.
okay, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
So that, well, and there's a lot of unpacking. So I'd be curious to know, not for this particular episode, but what is it you're stifling? What are you not processing?
I bet all of it.
D. All of
D.
the
Yes. I don't. Now that I think about it, like I told a friend of mine over Marco Polo yesterday.
What is Marco Polo?
Marco Polo is an app.
Oh, okay.
We are going to talk about a lot of apps and just assume that people know.
Yeah. Okay,
it is
good.
a game.
Well, you're going to have to explain it to me because I'm not techie.
Oh, actually, in episode 1, you said that we Vox each other, and we did not talk about what Voxing is.
Oh, see?
There is an app called Voxer.
Which Ryan introduced to me.
Yes, and it's where you leave like voicemails basically for each other in like a text message type of format. So you just voice recording, chat, conversation.
Marco Polo.
Marco Polo is the same thing but video.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so you just, and this is, I'm not going to go into it, but see, I'm checking myself. I've not normally done that, but we have limited time. Anyway, I was telling Marco Polo that at no moment in time am I not either about to get really angry or about to start crying. Mm-hmm. Like at every moment in time, if I'm awake, I am one baby step away from one or both of those things. And I know that crying is just your body releasing the emotions that you have. It's not specific to any one emotion. You can cry from happiness, you can cry from anger, you can cry from sadness, you can cry from... It's just your body just responding to the fact that you have those emotions now.
Right.
Anger is a very specific one. I have a lot of reasons to be angry, and I also don't have a lot of practice being angry. Mm-hmm. Because again, I was raised Baptist, and anger only has ever led to you behaving in ways that get you punished. Sure. And so I've learned to deal with anger by just choosing to remain inactive until I'm not angry. Like I don't know of a healthy expression of anger other than just getting a punching bag or something, you know?
Sure.
And I'm, due to recent developments in myself and learnings and ways that I've started making changes, I have also dug up like a decade's worth of anger that I never allowed myself to process or feel. And so that's all just like knocking at the door, like we're still in there, we still got to get felt, you know? And so...
Which you apparently need to do physically.
Yes. So... Yeah, to answer your question, which emotions am I not processing? I think if there is an emotion that it's possible to have, I have a lot of it, and I'm like holding the door, right? Like Game of Thrones style when Hodor had like all the zombies behind
here
him,
it comes.
And, you know, like, and then they're all like just trying to burst through the door. I'm just like, no, keep it together. I have to go to work and not be a wreck. You know, like.
So let me add to this. Going back to the model from episode 1, where you have an event, you have an emotion, you have a thought, and that drives your behavior. An emotion only takes 90 seconds to process physically if you don't attach a thought to it.
What if you do?
Well, then you're going to get caught up in story fondling, and you're going to spend a lot of time holding that door shut because you've got to go to work.
So you're saying if I work out for 3 minutes, I will have processed 2 emotions.
Yes.
30 minutes would be 20 emotions an hour, 40 emotions an hour.
Yeah.
That's how you measure workouts. Like speed is miles per hour, and workouts are going to be emotions per hour.
There you go.
I'm going to have a checklist. Anger, sadness, grief.
There goes my light bulb.
Yes. I Abby.
Yes. Oh, this is good, because I am also trying to develop this modality of a coaching technique, which I've told you about, where I'm getting people physical. Yeah. Like I'm going to work out with them, whether we bike or run or walk or hike, and we do it together, and I'm their guide as they are processing. But you just like made it measurable.
Right. It's quantifiable. Now you can be like, you processed 18 emotions today. It's like how the app knows how many calories you burned, even though it doesn't fucking know how many calories you burned. There's no way to tell. There's no way to tell.
Thank you. I'm like, how do you know my body chemistry?
But we trust it.
We're like, oh, wow, I just burnt 500 calories.
So you can be like, no, you didn't. You don't know. You don't know. You just feel better. Just let it be that. Are you happy? That's the measure. But you can tell. But
is that a placebo effect, right? Oh, I burnt 500 calories.
And then you start burning the calories.
Because then so.
Because your body does what your brain tells it to.
Whole nother topic. However... So this is interesting. So I guess my point being is you are kind of, what you just said is you are going into it like, oh shit, this is going to be big. This is real. I now have to deal with all this anger. And what I'm telling you is if you stay that observer and you step back, do your cognitive behavioral therapy.
On myself.
I'm having the thought, you can process all of that anger and not let it become a suffering, not let it become a big grief. And if you do it physically and you go in with the intention, like, I am here to release anger, and perhaps you feel the anger while you are working out, but you also know at the end of it that you've processed it, and you're not going to then go on and story fondle and come back to it. You stay curious, like, why am I angry about that? And really dig and keep digging, because you might find some gems in there that maybe you thought you were angry about this, but really it's something else entirely. But you don't have to make 10 years of anger a big thing.
Right.
You just have to keep your mind in check.
Yeah, and if you think about it in terms of finiteness, like, we've been married this many days, we've had this many concrete things that have happened that have caused this many emotional responses. And of course, it's a mesh network, right? Because the only reason they invoke those emotional responses is because something happened in my childhood or my parents or whatever. So you got to go all the way back to the beginning. But at some point, I hadn't been born yet. So there's still a finite number of things that are feeding into this. And so I don't know what that number is. And every single day it increases because I have more experiences. But it's almost like you're just going through a backlog. And at some point, you're going to have processed enough of those things to where now it doesn't feel like quite as heavy a lift to just go about your day.
Right, but you don't want to get overwhelmed by the backlog.
Right, there's 90 seconds at a time.
Big.
But just like, I used to work in credit repair, and we would sit there and process credit profiles. We also knew nothing about the world of credit, so I have no idea what I was doing to these people's credit profiles. But I was paid to do it, and we always had a backlog because we were always understaffed or someone was sick or whatever, and it wasn't very well managed. And so you were working through this manila folder, and you had a stack of manila folders, and you came into work and you had a stack of manila folders. And no matter how much you did that day, when you left, there was a stack of manila folders. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm a completionist. So I really like to get to the zero. Mm-hmm. And that was never going to happen. And it was really depressing until my coworker, who I shared a desk with, was like, just focus on the fact that you made progress today.
A micro movement.
How much progress did you make today? Did you make progress?
Exactly.
And then compare yourself to that. Just like keep track, because I am addicted to Excel spreadsheets. Like make a spreadsheet that shows how much you did yesterday, how much you did the day before, and chart it out and say, compare yourself to yourself, not how much you have left to do, because there will always be more to do.
Correct.
And so I don't really, that's my relationship with backlogs. Not like I have to get rid of all of it.
Okay.
But it frames it in a way for me that I can do a workout, and it's not about my tendons are more limber and my muscles are stronger and my lungs can handle more and my heart can, it's not any of that. Mm-hmm. Like that's good and it'll help me live longer. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if I start doing that, I'll now have an added element of I walked away feeling like I made progress on the stack of manila folders in my emotional landscape.
Sure.
That's a good reason to work out.
Well, I was going to say that's way more motivation than just saying,
right?
Yeah. Because see, people wonder why I work out 6 days a week. It's because I don't want to take medication.
Oh,
it's mental
that's
health.
Good. Yeah.
It is my mental health care.
That is great.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a bike and I have a weight rack.
You need to move your body.
I need to move my body.
For the sake of your emotions.
I have no reason not to. And I have a lot of more reasons to. Mm-hmm. We have made it 28 seconds into this conversation.
Okay, where will the next 28 seconds
we are going
take us?
to...
Let's jump in.
You know what, though? They say fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
You never make it. That's the you just fake it.
Constantly.
But it's not a bad thing because like in any situation you're always playing a character.
Yes.
Like even when everything I bring to the next 10 minutes of this conversation is bullshit.
Why?
I just don't even think I believe it.
We made it 5 seconds or so, but
should we play it out?
This is one of those. Okay, when I went back and listened after we recorded, there were many times when I said that is not what I wanted to say. I don't.
This whole time, all you did was listen to me, and then you said correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
When and if you ever get to listen to the pilot episode, that is all I say is correct.
While I'm saying something that I'm not even sure is true, and I don't even know if I believe. I don't know why. It's.
But I got to thinking about this whole idea of we're just constantly playing a character.
Yeah.
And I didn't really respond to you because I was incredibly nervous and thinking more about myself recording.
You do seem a lot less nervous this time.
I know. I don't know what it is. We're in this room called The Godfather.
It's the super professional mic that you have.
I think it is. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to question it because then I'm going to start getting nervous. But I don't believe that we're constantly playing characters unless we are not in tune with our essential selves. We are playing characters if we are following our social selves, the conditioned self. Mm-hmm. That's what we're trying to get away from. I think that's why we even want to start this podcast in the first place, is to get everybody to realize that there is an essential self. There is your true north self. And it does not require playing characters.
Right. It's like all the characters that you play are like puppets.
Yes.
And then the essential self is the puppeteer.
Right.
And I think it's scary when you are your essential self, because then it's like a human showing up in a land of puppets. Like, what the fuck are you?
But the puppeteer cannot be... No, the essential self cannot be the puppeteer, because the essential self doesn't want you to play all those roles. So why would it be making you play those roles?
Then what is the puppeteer? What's the thing that's
the external locus of control is what everybody else. Yes, it's the somebodies out there that, oh, we should do this because.
You know what's tricky though? I keep coming back to. We live in a society in conjunction with other humans, and within that, there are certain rules that just make society function.
Correct.
Not that society can't change if a huge swath of people just decide to collectively not follow one of the rules. Well, then it starts to normalize, and then society will change, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not to say that that's a static thing or an intrinsic thing or a universal thing, but as long as you live in conjunction with people, you have to like be mindful of at least some level of the rules, at least enough to know when you are breaking them and make a conscious choice, or when you're following them and making it a conscious choice.
Yes.
And so I feel like, because we're talking about like you should be your essential self all the time, but I just feel like the only way to really, really get away with doing that is to live alone. You know?
But then you're saying that your essential self doesn't follow the rules, or is not supposed to follow
or it just follows its own rules regardless of what society's rules are.
So what's wrong with that?
I feel like if you only speak one language and I want to communicate with you, I have to learn that language. Right? If I want to be effective in communicating with you.
Yes.
I feel like the rules of society are a type of language. And when you speak it, you have access to more people hearing what you're trying to say.
Okay.
And so I just think it's a balance where, you know, it's tough to navigate because you want to have both and.
Yeah, well, and we are wired for human connection. We are wired for connection. So we do have to.
And there are certain frameworks that has to live inside of.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess maybe then my point is we need to shift those rules to love and light. And they're not.
Right. By living that out. But we have to have one foot in each of those. Because if you are 100% aligned with who and what you are truly at your core, and you live that way, social rules be damned. Mm-hmm. That is super intimidating to most people who feel like they have to follow the rules, to the point where you're almost inaccessible to them. And you can do your thing and people can look at you and say, oh, well, that's nice that they figured it out, but I'm here. Mm-hmm. Right? And so you have to be able to be related to by people who are stuck living by all of the rules. Yes. And you can't do that when you're not you can't. I guess it's harder for me to imagine bridging that gap with somebody if you have truly transcended social norms and are just living according to you regardless of what anybody does or thinks about it. Mm-hmm. It feels untouchable. You know, so how, like, you kind of have to straddle that gap and live in both worlds.
Well, yes. And I think the people you're talking about that need to follow the rules are certainly the young souls. So I believe that
I'm raising my hand.
Not as young as in chronological age.
Right.
But I believe that when your physical body dies, your soul does not. It takes the lessons from this lifetime. Yes. Yeah. And so a young soul is a fairly new soul that has not learned a lot of lessons.
I still really feel like that's what I am. Like,
those are the people, in fact, when you, like, for me, I can meet somebody and know where they are on the soul spectrum, so to speak. Because those are the people that need the rules, because they need someone in a way to tell them what they need to do, because they don't have the wisdom to do any different. It's like they need the guidance.
I see.
So hearing what you're saying, the young souls are not going to be able to operate in a plane with no social conditions because they're needing that guidance. So I'm with you on that, but I think the social conditioning needs to change.
Agreed.
And so maybe that's more of my point. If we all live in our essential selves and we're more aligned with our true north selves, then if I'm operating that way, you're operating that way, then we can collectively change the
social
consciousness
norms
of the community.
around doing that, so that it's easier for people to do that socially and collectively.
Yes.
Martha
Martha Beck calls us wayfinders.
What?
Yes.
What?
Wow. That's very emphatic. What was that? Tell me more. Yes.
Oh my God.
Because she believes that we are the group of people that is trying to change the conscious collective, the collective conscious.
Back. Mm-hmm. When I left believing, like calling myself a Christian, because that's what you do, you start to disassociate with all the worst parts of Christianity. And I'm not a Christian. I believe in God and I go to church, but I'm not a Christian, right? That whole weird, confusing thing. I thought to myself, there's a growing number of people who grew up in a faith and are leaving it, but have nowhere to go other than another faith, or just full-blown atheism, or just like this kind of soupy agnostic, I don't really know,
sort
nobody knows, kind
yeah.
of like, and none of those really are something that you can get behind in a way that meets our need for tribal identity. And as much as I hate party politics and tribalism and all that stuff, it's just how we're wired to need to have a group of people who come together around at least one core element of what we are.
Yes.
Right? And so I actually, for a while, like there's this group called the Liturgists, which is basically kind of like a big net to catch all of those people, and they can at least call themselves the Liturgists, and they listen to a podcast and they go to events, but it's still kind of loose and free form and more content driven than community driven.
Okay.
And so I really started thinking that I need to build a community that's like a resource for people who have left the faith, but they want to jump into something, but none of the options on the menu are something that works for them. And kind of make something that's a little bit more structured, like a framework for moving forward with like books and resources and podcasts and things that you can use to educate yourself and give you permission. I think it was giving people permission to doubt, freedom to tell their story, and a forum to figure out their next step was going to be like the three pillars of this thing. And it was going to be called, I actually own the domain still, the Wayfinder Collective.
No way.
Yes. Because
I
have my Polynesian roots. I just had this idea of the Wayfinders who would just all get in a bunch of boats.
Yes.
And they would set off for another island, and they didn't know where they were going, but they knew where they had been. They knew where they were, and they knew who they were.
Right.
And they were in it together.
Right.
And they were all kind of going, well, it doesn't matter where we land, but we're going to land there together, and we're going to build something there that matches who and what we are.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, if I'm not going to call myself a Christian, I don't want to not call myself something. And so I started, I think if you go to my Facebook right now, like religious affiliation, it says Wayfinder. Like I was like, this is what we're going to call ourselves.
Yes.
We're going to call ourselves Wayfinders, which owns and names the fact that we are between land and we are in the water, but that's not nowhere and that's not nothing.
Yes.
And there's motion involved and communal, collective, in it togetherness, in the lostness. And then I was going to build this community. I don't know how. Like, I don't know how to build a community to catch like everybody who grew up in a church. And,
I think that's what we're doing
and
here.
Left it, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like this is called True North, and that's what they use. They use the stars.
Yes.
And so, the Wayfinder was the word that I would use as a conversation starter if someone asked me what I was religiously. I'm a Wayfinder. Well, what does that mean? No one knows what that means because I made it up.
Right.
And then I tell them, and then. But of course, it's already a thing.
But she doesn't use it as much in a, shall we call it, religious context. It's more her version is more kind of what I'm talking about, is if we all just stay in our essential selves, we can hopefully change the collective consciousness to more love and light, as a community, as a whole, as a tribe. But you, like, I love your metaphor. So I'm a fan of metaphors, but just exactly what you said. We're not on land. We're in the water. We're somewhere. It is not nothing. That feels like life so many times, and that we're lost, but we're figuring it out together, and we're going to stay in this higher place. And so I think that's her intention to use Wayfinder, but I like your version.
That's just not a word that I expected to encounter.
See, magical. Ever. I'm telling you, like,
oh my
something
goodness.
Always comes out of it. So I'm not saying you need to use that. You need to use that, and go to Austin with me next November for the Wayfinder retreat.
Oh God.
We can podcast live.
And we're gonna interview Martha Beck.
Yes.
We're
She would
sneak into the green room. Like, you're on our podcast now.
Yes.
Oh God. Do you like how she just dropped that bomb on me, everybody? Next November, join us live as a podcast.
We will still be podcasting.
And you will still be listening.
From Austin.
But we still will not have made it through this episode.
Probably not.
This one recording.
Yes.
8:16. We are 8 minutes and 16 seconds through this.
Okay, we'll jump back in and see where it takes us.
There, but there's not nobility there. That's not like a goal that I strive for. And instead, I strive to understand that at any moment in time, I'm playing a character. And I just ask myself, like, what character am I playing right now? Is that the character I need to be playing? And then it's also like, am I playing defensive me? Am I playing asshole me? Am I playing, like, you can take your temperature and be like, which... Wasn't there a movie where there was like 13 versions of a guy, like Michael Keaton? I jump around so much. Simplicity? I don't know. They got the same actor to play like 13 versions of the same person, but they were actual different people, but it was the same guy. But they all embodied like one version of the guy.
Okay.
And they were all, and so he was in a relationship with a girl, and so like she was in a relationship with all of them, and they all lived together. And it was kind of like that. Like, I actually don't know if that's even how the movie went. I never saw it.
You described a movie you've never seen.
I just was aware of it, and I think that's what it was. This may not even have existed. I may have just thought of it.
Because that's when you should be at your best. Unless you've got a lot of self-talk going on.
Well, I feel like...
So that's the one time we should strip away.
Well, here's what I would say. When I'm by myself, I adopt the persona of the me that I wish I was all the time. But to me, that still feels like a persona. Like, okay, Richard Rohr has this book called The Divine Dance, where he tackles the idea of the Trinity. Because it's super weird and confusing and doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. And he paints this picture of like three kids spinning on a schoolyard playground. Like, you know how like you grab hands and you spin around and stuff? If they're spinning fast enough and you're far away enough, it doesn't look like three kids, it just looks like a dance.
Right.
And so his whole thing was like, you have the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and sure, like there's all these delineations where you can identify which one's which and which one's each one isn't, But instead of saying that they're all God, he proposed this idea that the dance between those three is what God is. It's like God's like the through line. He's the event that happens when they're all in the same place. And so I feel like if I were to collect all of my personas, all of my versions of me that I show up as, the through line that makes them all, that they all have in common, like that's me. Mm-hmm. But if that's not attached to a persona, then it's not tangible. It's like you have your soul and you have your body, but your soul can't really interact with the world unless it does so through your body, So I feel like at any point in time, yes, I'm playing a character, but there's still the me that is playing that character. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I don't even know what I mean. So that's the thing that's consistent.
Well, this is where I should have jumped in. Hit boss.
Said everything that you said earlier. We definitely put the cart before the horse on that one.
Well, you're talking about your soul needing the body.
Yeah.
And there's...
At least, I think what I was saying was that the body is the conduit through which the soul interacts with the material world.
But you find that to be a persona.
The body?
Yes. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Like, I honestly don't know what I was saying. I think I was nervous too. And when I'm nervous, I just talk a lot.
Yes.
But it was just, I don't know. I do think it's true that at no point in time do I not feel like I'm playing a character, even when I'm alone.
Even when you feel that you are your essential self, that is still the character.
Well,
or do you even know? Okay, so here's the question: do you even know what that feels like?
To live according to my essential self. You know what? When I think of what it feels like in my body, I'm trying to think of times that I can point to that, looking back, I can say, yes, I was being my essential self in that moment. And the word that's coming to mind is pure. Like, I guess it's not true that I never feel like I'm not playing a character.
Okay.
There have been times that I felt like it wasn't even anywhere in my consciousness that playing a character was a thing that could be done. I was just operating completely as is, just unfiltered and raw. Those are the times that I mean, there's always like a very deep-seated emotional thing happening in those moments, which is interesting because we were talking about getting rid of the mind and what's left is the emotions. So when you're like totally 100% in your emotions, that's what feels the most pure to me. Maybe that's just me being a 4. But it's also, I'm connecting, not necessarily with a person, sometimes with a person. There are some people where when I connect with them, I feel like what I am in that moment is just what I am. I feel like if the microphones weren't here right now, then that's the mode I would be in right now. Normally, when you and I just meet up and hang out, it's not occurring to me to play a character or that I could be. I'm just being me. So I think those are the moments where maybe I'm closer to being my essential self. But then there are times that I will connect with material. I will connect with an idea. I'll connect with a book or a concept. And there will be an event where all of the things that I think make me just kind of disappear for a second. It's like when you focus on one little tiny point long enough, your eyes just stop telling your brain that anything else is around there and you literally go blind to it.
Yes.
It's kind of like that, where the things that I think make me what I am just kind of stop existing. Maybe that's what it means to maybe that's what it feels like to live true to your essential self, is what you think is yourself dissolves. Yes. Like you don't have an idea of a self. You're just being. No self, no problem. Those Buddhists and they're being right about stuff. Yeah. So maybe that's what it is. So I don't know that any of us truly know what our essential selves looks like, because we spend so much time sitting in our conditioning. We are conditioned from the moment of birth. Yes. And so, I throw that concept out a lot, to actually be your essential self. But what does that really mean? But this is the beauty of going back to saying emotions are physical. What I try to teach people is your body already knows that, because your soul lives within your body. And so your body is actually your compass, not your mind. So if you know where your body's taking you, like you said, you have a feeling of pure, if that is a physical feeling to you, that is your essential self. So there's a tool that I teach where if people have no idea, I get them to use their body as the actual compass. And if it's closer to the true north, then they're definitely in line with our essential selves. And I think I've mentioned it to you, the body compass, at some point, and then we never got around to... Yes, you mentioned it on Voxer, and I wrote it down on a Post-it note, and that's the one thing I brought to this 2-hour conversation, and we did not talk about it. And we didn't even talk about it. Yeah. But that also makes sense with the exercise thing, because when you're doing something physical, you don't really have the mental capacity to think about. There are a lot of things that you just don't have the ability to think about, because you're thinking about what you're doing. Right. And that's what I love about the universe. It's like, let's give them something physical to distract them from their minds. Yes. So they don't
They can't sit and just do
That's so the Way of the Peaceful Warrior.
Yes.
Dan Millman.
I was going to bring that up.
I beat you to it. There's a scene both in the book and in the movie where he tells him, where Socrates tells the guy he needs to take out the trash.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So if you haven't seen this movie or read this book, you need to stop.
Go.
And do it. Like pause this and read the entire thing.
And then go back.
I read it in a day. I think I was between jobs at the time and I had time, but it's just, I could not put it down.
Yes.
And he's like, you need to take out the trash. I'm like, what does that mean? So then he says, meet me on a bridge on campus, on the college campus tomorrow. And so he does. And so then, he goes up to him and is like, okay, what are we doing? And Socrates just throws him over the bridge into the water. And so he climbs out and he's all like, oh, what was that about? And he goes, well, were you thinking about your problems when you were falling down and like off the bridge into the water? And he's like, no. What were you thinking about? Well, I don't know, just falling into the water. And he's like, oh, so you were 100% absorbed in what was happening, where you were, and that was all it was. And it's like, oh, I guess. He's like, well, congratulations, you took out the trash. That was one of those movies where if I hadn't been watching it in theaters, I would have paused it and just to sit that, like, let it simmer for a while. Like,
yes.
That's what working out does, though.
Yes.
And as I used to do Olympic powerlifting, and so when you're doing like a clean and jerk or a snatch, you are 100% of your body and your mind is focused on the one thing you're doing moment by moment. Mm-hmm. And when I was a gymnast, it was the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like you'd be on whatever equipment you're on. You're about to do the new skill that you're trying to learn and you don't have down yet, but you really want to get it so you can move to the next thing. Mm-hmm. And you have like a second to execute 30 different little tiny micro maneuvers that you practiced all individually, and you have to put them all together, and everything has to fire at the right time and the right way. And when you're in the middle of doing that thing, each of those little things is all you're thinking about. You're not thinking about the coach that yelled at you the day before. You're not thinking about, how you slammed your finger in the door yesterday and it really hurts. You're only thinking about the thing that you're doing. And the entire world, your entire existence is completely distilled down to that one moment. Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing you say is we just need to devote our lives to physical exercise. People are going to stop listening now.
What? We have to move our bodies?
Screw this. I have to exercise.
We should do one of those challenges where like we get people to like that's our time.
No way.
That's our time. We just hit
fast. But I think we're onto something about the physical manifestation of the mind. Ooh.
Yes.
Call it that.
Yes. When we talk about the mind and the body, like they're two different things.
They are.
But they're also very much linked. They're also very much like intertwined. They're like two threads in a fabric.
Yes, but I think we spend more time making the mind the authority when our body should be the authority.
Well, no, not we act like they're two different things. We act like they're not, like they're not related, like they're not touching.
Right.
Like when you put syrup into two different little compartments on a waffle.
Yes.
And when I put syrup on a waffle, I will pour it into every single little square individually and make a little but those syrups aren't touching. That's what we act like the mind and the body are. And really it's more like a pancake.
It needs to be more like a pancake. Yes.
Okay, so move your body, exercise. That's the takeaway.
But not for the sake of exercise.
No, not to lose weight and not to no, it's emotional, mental health and spiritual health.
Absolutely. We're going to come back to this.
I promise we're going to get through this. We got through 4 minutes. 7 minutes the first time and 4 minutes. Oh my God. Eventually this recording is going to get good.
What do you mean get good?
No,
I
this
think we're
one.
onto a good
Like
start.
we're going to get to a point where we get to the good stuff, because there's really good stuff in there, but so far we've talked about nothing.
We do get to good stuff. We just have to get to like the first hour.
But we're going to spoil it all before we actually get to that part of the recording. All right, hang with us, everybody. Episode 3 is coming to you hot next time we decide to do this.
And until then, we see you, human.
And go find it. We need one. We can't say
I know.
There's too many. There's too many sign-offs. I like we see you, human.
Go find yourself, muck person.
No, I like we see you, human better.
We see you, human. I have to really slow down when I say that because I get it. We see you.
We see you, human.
We see you.
We see you, human. Human. I had a friend who was talking about Hugh Jackman, but she accidentally called him Jack Human. And I like that better.
Yeah, Jack Human. Or what was I going to say? I see you, soul. You know, because human's just a physical. Anyway, all right, we're moving on. Until then,
We're gonna figure out a sign off. I promise. Maybe in episode 3. Who knows? Oh no, that's not how you do it. This is how you do it.